Hello there and welcome back to another Lightroom tutorial. I'm Lauren Scott, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to convert a simple landscape into a moody low-key shot. Now there are many ways to convert your images to black and white using Lightroom. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to use Lightroom's black and white mix panel, and we're going to be enhancing a long exposure shot here. You can see the before and after to black and white using adjustment brushes to make subjects really sort of to make it very dramatic and moody. So we've got our two images here just to show you. So the first thing you'll need to do is import or load your images. So we're going to select this one here, and then we're going to go to the Develop tab. Now the first thing to do is to zoom out so I can see that image on the screen. Now what we want to do is we want to go to the Basic panel here, and we want to set the treatment to black and white. Now this has a similar effect to if you switch to the grayscale mode in Camera Raw editing software. Now if you want to crop your image, it might be best to do this before you start editing the rest of the tones and the image. So I'm going to go to crop there. Now an aspect ratio of 1:1 can work really well for minimalist images like this. They look quite traditional, like the traditional medium format film. So I'm just going to drag that across there. As you can see, I've changed the aspect ratio to 1:1. And I've locked it there, and I'm just going to drag it sort of. I like this detail here, so I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to crop that. Now Lightroom will still retain the original format until your image is exported. So if you change your mind, you can always go back to the crop tool at the top there and change it. So I'm just going to keep it like that for now, and then I'm going to start changing the tones to refine my conversion. So I'm going to take the exposure down a little bit. With low-key images, they contain a lot more dark tones, and as you can see, as I start to pull this down, the histogram starts to get skewed to the left. So keep this in mind as you edit, and sort of pay attention to the shadows and the highlights there, just in case you're clipping any information. So I'm going to take that down just roughly to about -0.35. I'm going to pop the contrast up a little bit. I'm going to take the highlights down, because we've got some quite bright details here just above the sea, and then I'm going to boost the shadows there just a little bit there. I'm going to take the blacks down as well. There we go. And then I'm also going to take the clarity up. Now the levels that I'm using, the values here, sorry, they'll really vary depending on your shot and on the exposure. There we go. So I'm just going to pop that up there to sort of to bring out the textures and things in the rocks. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to darken this sky, and that can be done by adding a graduated filter. So there I go to the top and I click on graduated filter. Now I've got a new one here selected, and I'm going to set that to 0 at the moment, so I want to just keep everything as it was. There we go. Now I'm going to drag this down across the portion of the sky to around halfway in the sky there. So I've pulled that down, and now it's time to actually tweak the exposure levels. So I'm going to pull the exposure down. As you can see, the sky starts to get a lot darker. I can take the contrast up if I want to. Just be careful you're not getting any posterization in the tones in the sky, which is where you'll lose sort of tonal information, and then colours will appear as thick bands between each other. So there we go. I can even take the blacks down if I want to. It really depends how pronounced you want the effect to be. So if I pull that down, as you can see, it starts to get darker again across the rocks. There we go. So I'm going to pull that down again just to darken things up a little bit. And I can also take the shadows up and the whites up. So experiment until you like it. There's no right or wrong way to do this here. And now that's done. Before I export the final image, there we go, if I just go back to the basic panel, so click off that and the graduated filter. If I go back to the basic panel, I might want to add an adjustment brush, and that can be found at the top there, just above the basic panel, and you'll find another drop down menu. Now you don't have to do this step, this is just to tweak any areas of the exposure that you're not happy with more selectively. So if I wanted to lighten up a few areas in these rocks, for example, if I took show selected mask overlay, that's going to show where I'm painting. I'm just going to pick out these shadow details, and this is just an example, might not necessarily look right. There we go. So I can pull that up and you'll start to see those details there lighten up, and it just makes it look a little bit more clear and adds a bit more clarity. If I up the contrast and then even up the shadows there, there we go. And you can add as many different brushes as you like. So if I want to add another one, I can make some more changes, and I might want to darken this area, for example. There we go. And then as I start to edit, I'm going to up the contrast and to see the effect. There we go. I'm just going to pull the exposure down there and pull the exposure down there as well. So there you have it. This is a very sort of quick and easy way to edit your images. As I said earlier, if you want to ignore the crop, that's what it looks like as the original image. So once you're finished, export it and just really keep experimenting.